The blood ran across the cold asphalt while Mr. Alfredo tried to get up. His hands were shaking. The cane had rolled far away. 3 men surrounded him on that deserted street, and the pain in his chest tightened more and more. It was late at night, and no one seemed to be around to help. The shouts echoed in the emptiness, while one of the men violently ripped his wallet away. That was when everything changed. A furious bark cut through the air, paws pounding forcefully against the ground. The German Shepherd appeared like a storm, eyes fixed on the attackers. No one expected that. The dog lunged without hesitation, baring its teeth, growling in a way that made blood run cold. The criminals backed away. One of them tried to kick the animal, but it was useless. The German Shepherd was fast, determined, and fearless. Alfredo watched everything from that dirty ground, unable to believe what he was seeing. Where had that dog come from? Why was it there, protecting a stranger? The animal positioned itself between the elderly man and the men, like a soldier defending territory. Every movement was calculated. Every growl, a real threat. The criminals realized they would not win that battle. One of them shouted something to the others, and the 3 ran away, leaving the wallet on the ground. Silence returned. Alfredo was breathing with difficulty, still without the strength to move. The German Shepherd slowly approached, sniffing the air, checking if the danger had passed. Then it did something unexpected. It lay down beside the elderly man, resting its warm snout on his arm, as if to say, "It's all right now." Tears ran down Alfredo's wrinkled face. They were not tears of pain, but of gratitude. That animal did not know him, but had risked everything for him. But the story does not end here. In fact, it was only beginning, and what happened next will move you in a way you cannot imagine. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Put in the comments what you thought and which city or country you are watching from. Alfredo finally managed to sit up, still leaning against the cold alley wall. The German Shepherd remained there, vigilant, ears alert to any strange sound. The elderly man extended his trembling hand and touched the animal's head. The fur was rough, dirty with earth and mud. Did this dog have an owner? Was it lost? Nothing made sense. When Alfredo looked more closely, he noticed something that made him swallow hard. The German Shepherd had scars. Old marks across its body, as if it had been through battles. One ear slightly torn. Dark patches in the fur that could have been wounds healed long ago. That was not an ordinary pet dog. It was a survivor. Minutes later, blue and red lights illuminated the street. Someone had called the police. 2 officers got out of the patrol car and ran toward Alfredo. He explained everything, still confused, pointing to the dog that had saved him. One of the officers' eyes widened. "I can't believe it. It's Thor." Alfredo frowned. Thor. The officer crouched down, observing the German Shepherd with a mix of amazement and sadness. "This dog was from our unit. One of the best we ever had. But he disappeared almost 2 years ago. We thought he was dead." The revelation struck like lightning. Thor was not just any dog. He was a police dog trained to save lives, sniff out danger, protect the innocent. But something had happened. Something that had torn him away from everything. What happened to him? Alfredo asked, his voice choked. The officer hesitated. There was an incident. Thor and his partner, Sergeant Daniel, were on a dangerous operation. Armed traffickers. Everything went wrong. He paused, the weight of the memory visible on his face. Daniel died that day. Thor was injured and ran away. We never saw him again. Alfredo felt a tightness in his chest. Now he understood the scars. He understood the distant look in that animal's eyes. Thor had not only saved a stranger. He had returned to doing what he knew best, even while carrying pain that no one could see. But why did he appear on that very night? Why did he choose to protect Alfredo? The answer would come in a way no one expected. The following days brought more questions than answers. Alfredo returned home, but he couldn't get Thor out of his head. The police had taken the dog for veterinary exams and checks. They said he was thin, tired, but alive. Miraculously alive. Meanwhile, Alfredo began to investigate on his own. He couldn't explain it, but he felt there was a connection. Something bigger than coincidence. He picked up his old phone and typed the name of Sergeant Daniel into the internet. He found old news about the shootout. Photos of him in uniform. Statements from colleagues. Every word left Alfredo more intrigued. Then he saw something that changed everything. In a report from 2 years earlier, there was a photo of Daniel off duty, smiling next to Thor. He was standing in front of a small grocery store. The same store where Alfredo bought bread every week. The same store just 2 blocks from where he had been attacked. Alfredo felt a shiver. Daniel lived in that neighborhood. Thor knew those streets. But there was more. Alfredo remembered something the officer had said that night. Thor was injured and ran away. Ran away to where? No one knew. For 2 years, that dog had been missing, wandering alone, surviving somehow. And now suddenly, he returns precisely to save someone in the former territory of his fallen partner. Alfredo picked up the phone and called the police station. He needed more information. He needed to understand. When he finally managed to speak with the officer who had assisted him, he asked the question that would not leave his mind. Was Thor near that street before? Had anyone seen him around there? There was silence on the other end. Then the answer came, slow and heavy. Actually, yes. Residents reported seeing a German Shepherd roaming the neighborhood in recent weeks. Always at night. Always on the same streets. Alfredo hung up the phone with trembling hands. Thor was not there by chance. He was watching. Protecting. Continuing the mission he had never abandoned, even after losing everything. And what would happen now to this silent hero was about to surprise everyone. 1 week later, Alfredo received an unexpected phone call. It was from the commander of the police unit. His voice sounded serious, but there was something different. Something Alfredo couldn't quite identify. Mr. Alfredo, I need you to come to the station. It's about Thor. The elderly man's heart raced. Had something happened to the dog? Had his condition worsened? He grabbed his cane and left as quickly as he could. When he arrived, he was taken to a room where several officers were gathered. In the center was Thor. But he was not alone. Beside him stood a man in uniform whom Alfredo had never seen before. Young, serious, with scars on his face. This is Corporal Rodrigo, said the commander. He was Daniel's last partner before the incident. And he has something important to tell us. Rodrigo took a deep breath and began. That night of the shootout, I was there. I saw everything. When Daniel fell, Thor tried to protect him until the very end. But the traffickers fled, and we thought they had escaped forever. He paused, his eyes filling with tears. But they didn't escape. Alfredo frowned. What do you mean? In the last few weeks, the police arrested the 3 men responsible for Daniel's death. And guess who led us to them? Rodrigo pointed to Thor. Security cameras showed Thor following the same criminals for days. He found them. He led us to their hideout. The room fell into absolute silence. Alfredo felt tears fall. Thor was not just protecting the neighborhood. He was hunting down his partner's killers. And that night, when he saved Alfredo, one of the attackers was actually one of the wanted criminals. The commander stepped closer. Thor completed his mission. He brought justice for Daniel. And saved your life in the process. But then came the twist no one expected. The commander looked at Alfredo and said, and now Thor needs a home. A place where he can finally rest. I thought maybe you. Alfredo did not let him finish. He knelt down with difficulty and hugged Thor, feeling the heart beating strong against the animal's chest. Yes, Alfredo whispered, his voice choked. He stays with me. The officers applauded. Some discreetly wiped away tears. Thor rested his head on the elderly man's shoulder, as if he knew he had finally found peace. In the months that followed, Alfredo's life changed completely. Thor became more than a companion. He was family. Every morning, they walked together through the same streets where everything had begun. The German Shepherd was no longer that wounded, lost animal. His eyes shone again. People in the neighborhood soon learned the story. Children ran to greet Thor. Shopkeepers saved special treats for him. The dog who had spent 2 years alone, wandering in the shadows, was now celebrated as a hero. But to Alfredo, Thor was more than that. He was a living reminder that loyalty never dies. That love and duty can survive even the worst tragedies. Thor had not forgotten Daniel. He never would. But he had learned that he could still love, still protect, still live. One afternoon, Alfredo took Thor to the cemetery. They stopped in front of Sergeant Daniel's grave. The elderly man placed fresh flowers and stood there in silence. Thor sat beside him, quiet, looking at the headstone as if he understood. "Thank you for training him so well," Alfredo said softly. "Thank you for teaching him to never give up. He saved my life. And now, I will take care of him for the rest of his life." Thor licked Alfredo's hand. It was a simple gesture, but full of meaning. There in that moment, two lonely souls had found each other. Two lives that seemed lost had been given a new chance. The story of Thor teaches something profound. True heroes do not give up. They may fall, they may get lost, they may bleed. But deep down, they always find the strength to go on. To protect. To love. And you, watching from wherever you are, remember, loyalty has no price. Love has no end. And every hero deserves a second chance. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments what you thought and which city or country you're watching from. Until next time.